operators, independent sponsors, searchers, and lower middle market investors who want to build a repeatable deal flow in the 2 to 15 million EBITDA range and who want the right opportunities, great talent, and capital to come to them over time. The goal is very simple for you to become the person who receives more inbound introductions, proprietary deal flow, and credible referrals because your reputation, your positioning, and relationships compound. We will learn all this from two places. Number one is a private equity investor who built a 8-figure portfolio. He's an anonymous follow on Twitter, on X, with an handle, the Real Estate G6, whose framework explains why most people keep restarting from zero and how to build yachts that create gravity, the venues, the platforms, and the proof that make the right people lean in. Source number one. Source number two is Larry Gagosian, the billionaire art dealer who has 19 locations, galleries around the globe, does over $1 billion per year in sales, and still owns 100% of his firm. His superpower isn't being social, it's designing environments where influential people want to be, and then curating the guest list and the follow through with ruthless consistency, with one single goal in mind: to sell more art. Why is it important to understand is he covers both sides. Number one is the people who would like to buy art. Number two is the sellers, the people who own those extremely expensive pieces of art. So it's like a platform. Same thing in investing. You, on the one hand, you need capital, and on the other hand, which we see more and more to be true in this world, is deals, great deals. So how do you attract those people who, number one, have those deals, and how do you attract those business owners who want to sell their businesses? So that's what we're going to discuss. Again, if you're trying to build a deal flow, 2 to 15 million EBITDA, lower middle market, and at the same time you want maybe 10, maybe 50, maybe hundreds of potential investors who know, like, and trust you. So when the great opportunity lands in your inbox, you have people's phone number, WhatsApp message, and you can simply send them a message and they will listen. And if the opportunity is compelling, they will also invest. At the same time, this is not about building relationships quickly. It's about doing it slowly and deliberately. So you can play long-term games with long-term people. I believe exactly how it should be. What is the art of making people with deals, with investments and capital to come to you? And how can you create your own yacht? Let's start with the average people. The typical average person goes through life and nothing they do compounds. Their investments don't compound, their skill sets don't compound, and their relationships don't compound. Instead of using one of the most powerful forces in the world to make their life easier as they get older, they start from scratch every single time with everything they do, making their life unimaginably harder. It really is a massive disaster, but it's completely avoidable. Most people are familiar with the first two concepts. Compound investing is one of the most harped about topics in the world. Compounding skill sets are somewhat well known as well, but relationship compounding is rarely, if ever, discussed. And that's a shame, because not utilizing it leads to a massive time sink and people don't even realize it. How the typical person treats relationships. They start from square one in every single relationship. This means that they're not leveraging their past relationships or their past body of work. Basically, all their successes in life up until that point to create those new relationships. It also means that those new relationships are not starting off on a favorable footing. Let's start off with a very basic example of how people try to build relationships. Going to a bar alone to meet people. I think everyone realizes that this is playing life in a difficult mode. You have no social proof, no credibility, no one knows who you are, and none of your past work is reflected in the interaction. This is all fine and good if you're out to have fun, and it's actually a good way to test your social skills, but it's incredibly inefficient. And what we want efficiency. Do you know how much harder it is to convert or like start a new relationship with someone who isn't familiar with you at all? You should ask any e-commerce guy how much harder it is to convert cold traffic than warm traffic. It's miles apart. Or folks successfully raising capital from people they've never met versus the ones they've interacted for years. Well, you're making your life way harder for no reason at all. Let's start thinking of ways you can start establishing the items listed above: social proof, credibility, people knowing who you are, and your past work being reflected in the interaction. We'll start off very simple. First off, your body. You can be in good shape, you can have a good haircut, then your clothes. You can wear expensive, well fitted clothes. You can wear a nice watch if you're a watch guy. You can make sure that your outfit looks well put together. That's pretty much all you can directly do with your appearance. What do those items and attributes convey? Mostly your past work. A good body shows the hours you've spent in the gym. And if you're a watch guy, a nice watch shows you're fairly successful in the business. They convey a tiny bit of social proof and credibility as well. Dressing well proves you fit in with society, but again, not enough to move the needle. By doing those things, you've hit the base level. But the markets and in the world of finding great deals, raising capital, making great capital allocation decisions, all this, it have become so competitive that the base level doesn't get you anywhere. You need to do more, a lot more. Now that you've addressed how to best portray yourself to patrons, how can you manipulate your surroundings to convey all of these traits as well? An easy way to confer social proof is to bring friends along. Bringing friends along further conveys that you fit into society. And the cooler your friends, the more high status you must be from other people's perspective. I know this is all very basic so far, but understanding the basic human psychology behind interactions is incredibly important when you are creating your yacht. Again, we get into Dealflow and the list of capital allocators who know, like, and trust you in a moment, but let's stop here for a second. So far, this essentially describes every semi-successful person in every major city. In other words, this isn't impressive. Nearly everyone has figured this part out. You're going to have to do a lot more if you want to stand out. But what else can you use? How about the bar, or how about the restaurant or cafeteria you go? Instead of going to a new restaurant, new bar, new cafeteria every time, you can go to the same location several times. You can get to know the waitstaff, the bartenders, and the owner. And this is far better. Now you're in the minority at the venue. Very few people casually at the bar know the workers or in the restaurant or have any standing with them. And other people will see that you know them, which will help you out in every future interaction at that bar or at that restaurant. And you can see the compounding slowly start to occur. What I did many years ago, I always went to the same Italian restaurant. Almost every single day, it was very close to my office. I always took my morning coffee from there. I knew the people by name. I knew the owner. And every time I had a rather important meeting, I went to this Italian restaurant because it was like a home away from home for me. And I felt extremely comfortable there. I knew the people, and obviously the people who I brought there, they could see that. So I did that, and it worked super well. How relationship building should actually work. Let's think about the time and energy usage of the average person. As mentioned above, the average person goes to a ton of different places and never makes deeper relationships at any of them, meaning that they essentially start back at square one in every social situation. This leads to that Groundhog Day feeling that most people get in their late 20s when they realize that pretty much every weekend they've had for the last 5 years has been exactly the same. All that time spent going to a new places results in almost nothing. They literally have nothing to show for it, just wasted time. The value of any new time spent creating relationships is exactly the same as it was when they first started going out, and it's very low baseline. For the average person, the first energy spent in each new interaction is to establish things that they've established 1,000 other times to 100 or 1,000 other people. Who you are, where you work, what your lifestyle is, if you're cool, if you're not cool, how successful you are, how popular you are, whether you're worth knowing, etc., etc. These are all things that other people feel out when they first meet you, whether they admit it or not. And these are also things that should have already been established at this point in your life simply by virtue of compounding. Here I want to give you a Larry Gagosian example. He learned early that credibility can be established before the official meeting. He cultivated relationships with top gatekeepers like Leo Castelli, who was well known in this industry, and then used those relationships as a flywheel: long lunches, gifts, and persistent follow up until introductions to the truly powerful became available. A single connection where Leo Castelli introduced him to C. Newhouse, another heavy hitter in this industry, which led to a web of collectors, artists, and institutions. That's compounding. One relationship creates disproportionate access to the next layer. What if you could establish all of these things beforehand? Wouldn't that give you an upper hand in starting a relationship? And if the answers to all of those questions were positive, wouldn't that make other people want to start relationships with you without having to exert any of the energy that you normally exert and waste any of the time that you normally waste? The tragedy of average person's relationship strategies, they never put the work in to manufacture a venue or a situation that allows their relationships to compound. Instead of spending time working on manufacturing adventurous situations, they spend time trying to force new interactions, simply because it's easier in that the return is more guaranteed. It's smaller, but it's guaranteed. If you decide to go to a new bar, you will meet new people. That's a fact. You may not meet them on a favorable terms, you may even strike out, but you will meet new people. Now, manufacturing adventurous situations, on the other hand, you have no guaranteed return. You could spend weeks trying to create an adventurous situation and it never materializes. Maybe you spend 3 weeks trying to become a regular at the bar, only to find out that you don't really gel with the clientele there. Here's another example what Larry Gagosian did. So before he had the party circuit, I'm gonna get into this in a second, but he did the unglamorous front-end work at scale. Again, relentless calling, tracking who owned what when it comes to art, who might sell, who had status anxiety, and who could introduce him upward. That kind of effort looks very inefficient at the moment, but it builds a private map of a market. It's like a CRM, and over time, the map becomes a moat, and opportunities start finding you because you are the trusted intermediary. I did the same thing with Twitter pretty much. I just started sharing my journey, my story, and it took me, I think, 2.5 years to ever make money out of it. So it was just daily tweets, what is going on my life, what I'm learning, who I'm meeting. If a person preferred to stay anonymous, I kept them anonymous, but I asked if it's okay to share what we discussed. When they said yes, I did that. So all this work every single day, at least 2 to 3 tweets for years. Now there is a next step to post and then to meet those people, meet in DMs, meet in WhatsApp, 125 something people on a podcast. It's still online. That's what I've been doing so far. Now there's going to be a phase number 3, which is to go from online to offline. Different smaller events, gatherings, dinners, but the time will come when I start doing this. But learning from, again, Larry Gagosian way as well is he built this map, this CRM. That's what I've been doing as well. There are hundreds of people on this list, people who look for deals, people who are capital allocators. Now it's time to put this all together. Like anything else, it's a lot of work and a lot of time on the front end with no guarantee of success on the back end. So instead of even attempting it, most people keep plugging along at their same strategy, which, as we've seen, results in severe time and energy wasting. Basically, relationship compounders spend all of their time manufacturing adventurous situations where average people, let's call them relationship flatliners, spend time in new interactions. And over time, The relationship compounder can create new, valuable relationships with barely any effort, energy, or time expended. That's because the value of their new time spent on relationships is off the charts. More valuable time means less time needed. Average people, relationship flatliner, forever spend the same amount of time creating each new relationship because the value of the time never changes. They don't take advantage of compounding, which has disastrous effect of the relationship as time goes on. As mentioned before, this is incredibly inefficient. And all we want here is efficiency. What do you actually want with regard to your relationships? And how can you avoid being a relationship flatliner? At the base level, you want several things. For all your old relationships to lead to new relationships, for all of your past work to lead to new relationships, for people to come to you to want to start a relationship, and for relationships to start off on a positive footing. Now, creating your own yacht. For those of you who aren't familiar, there is this Greek entrepreneur, Aristotle Onassis, and he was one of the wealthiest businessmen in the 20th century. He started off as a tobacco trader, but soon he realized that the real money was in shipping, and he became a shipping magnate as well as one of the richest men in the world. He was also socialite, dating famous actresses, opera singers, and ex-first ladies, including Maria Callas and Jacqueline Kennedy. Needless to say, the guy knew how to build relationships, both socially and financially. He was an expert at manufacturing adventurous situations at venues he controlled. He approached relationship building different than most. Once he had established himself, he bought a massive yacht and named it Christina after his daughter. To give you an idea of how big the boat was, he purchased it at the end of World War II, and as of 2018, over 50 years later, it was still the 45th largest yacht in the world. Onassis would often live out of the yacht, and most importantly, he would hold all social and business events on the yacht. The brilliance of this move has never really been talked about. Think about how easy it is to build a relationship with someone after they board your yacht for a party or even just a business meeting. Social proof, check. Credibility, check. Everyone knowing who you are in a positive way, check. All of your past work being reflected in the interaction, I mean, in the case you are a successful shipping tycoon, check. Then there's the physical act of boarding the boat as well, which implicitly tells you that you're not on your home turf anymore, you are on his. It's really utterly brilliant. By stepping on the yacht, you have completely fallen into his frame. Everything after that occurs on his terms, not yours. And the very modern parallel is Larry Gagosian, the art dealer, who effectively built a global fleet of yachts, not boats, but venues he controls. And this was across the globe. Think, his major entertaining base in New York, the Harkness Mansion, renovated to host serious dinners. Then the Hamptons, the Amaxnet for the seasonal social calendar, and gatherings that orbit places like Los Angeles, St. Bart's, Art Basel in Switzerland, and even one-off destination moments like Capri in Italy. The consistent pattern is the same. Curate the room, curate the guest list, and repeat it often enough that the venue becomes a gravity well. Now, if we take both gentlemen, Aristotle Onassis and Larry Gagosian, over time, people stop thinking, who are you? And they start asking, can I get in? That is relationship compounding in its purest form. Your setting becomes your credibility, and your calendar becomes your Dealflow engine. Now, when it comes to Dealflow, this episode is for the buyers and the builders. CapitalBad, today's sponsor, is where they meet. CapitalBad is a deal-by-deal platform that connects accredited investors with acquisition entrepreneurs, so more great small businesses end up with capable operators. Investors get curated opportunities with clear thesis, clean materials, and aligned incentives. And searchers and independent sponsors get the professional way to bring capital together. plus partners who actually understand the rates, covenants, and the year one grind. Capitalbad is for accredited investors only. To learn more or to sign up, go to capitalbad.com. I'll also link it in the show notes. Now, regarding the 4 criteria we listed above, and if we take both gentlemen, Larry Gagosian and the Greek entrepreneur Aristotle Onassis, did all of their old relationships lead to new relationships? Undoubtedly, yes. Not only did all of their friends and friends of friends who were invited to the party knew who they were, but also people who weren't invited to the parties talked about the parties and wanted to meet them and come to the future parties. So did all of their past work lead to new relationships? Yes. Everyone could see the work they'd put in over the course of their life in pursuing the yacht, the various locations around the globe, which again are extremely impressive accomplishments. Now, that work could be a yacht, could be the villas, served as a visual resume for people and allowed them to easily build new relationships. Did people come to them to try to start a relationship? Obviously, yes. Everyone wants to be friends with people who own a yacht, with people who own various locations around the globe who host events, and everyone wants to do business with successful people. Did these relationships start off on a positive footing? Yes. Being introduced as the owner of the yacht or various mansions and villas across the globe tends to do that. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to actually buy your own yacht immediately or buy multiple villas across the globe, but you can and you should be able to create similar situations that are adventurous toward relationship building. The idea is to create your own yacht in which all of your cumulative work, again, socially, financially, compounds into creating an environment in which your credibility and reputation is already firmly established without you having to do anything additional in each successive outline. This gives you a gravitational pull. Most people have no pull. There is nothing attracting you in, nothing making you want to become friends with them. There is no reason why you'd want to start a relationship with them more than anyone else you'd meet on the street. Pull is exactly what you should be looking to create. Ideally, you want everyone to come to you and get sucked into your gravitational pull without any additional effort. Goal of life should be to have everything, business, friendships, come to you instead of you having to go to them. Everything should be happening on your terms and under your control. That's really when you've reached the peak. And in Larry Gagosian example, one reason his pull became so strong is that he inverted the usual hierarchy. Instead of dealers chasing clients, many clients wanted to emulate him. His taste, his access, his social world. In Dealflow terms, the lesson is to build a reputation that signals, if you work with me, you are joining a higher standard room. The magnetism is hard to replicate quickly, but it compounds massively when it's real. So the purpose of creating your own yacht is essentially to manufacture venues or situations that make high quality people want to know you. In our case, people who own those 2 to 15 million EBITDA businesses, advisors, brokers on the one hand, and on the other hand, people with liquidity, people with capital who are looking for those opportunities. So you could put all this together like a platform. This leads to the effect in which the value of your new time building relationships increases exponentially as a result of the fact that you don't have to go to other people anymore to start relationships. They come to you. You barely have to spend any of your own time creating new high quality relationships because you put it all that time on the front end manufacturing the adventurous situation to make the high quality relationships come to you, quote unquote, creating your own yacht. I know this has been really abstract so far, so let's dive into some specific examples. Let's reverse engineer it all, like how can you create your own yacht? In my opinion, Concepts are only really useful if you can reverse engineer them for your own gain. So let's start off with some modern day examples of yachts. Then we can dive into how to reverse engineer it. Shark Tank. Shark Tank is one of the best examples of creating your own yacht. Most private equity, family offices, venture capitalists spend the majority of the time searching for deals. They'll do cold outreach, send out cold emails, and take hundreds of meetings with business owners before finding a deal. Then they often spend months competing against other venture capitalists or capital allocators for the deal itself. But Shark Tank completely flipped the script, making the business owners come to them. In fact, business owners want to come to them. Not only that, but they make favorable deals with the sharks because they're interested in more than just their money. They're interested in the sharks' expertise and prestige. Shark Tank was able to position themselves as experts in the space, which changed the nature of their relationship with the business owners. Instead of the usual script where it's the venture capitalist and investors who are lucky to find a deal, it's the business owner who's lucky to make a deal with a shark. They make it a spectacle as well, in which they're in high chairs overlooking a stage where the business owners desperately plead for an investment. The power structure is completely inverted, and the more people that watch it on TV, the more business owners that want to get on the show. Instead of spending their time on outreach to find a deal, sharks spend most of their time on qualifying the deals that come to them. The value of their new time spent on building relationships is extremely high. This is the effect of compounding. When the show first started, I'm sure it was difficult to find business owners who wanted to pitch on the show. Now they have too many people want to be on the show. Many people want to be on it. It got easier over time. Therefore, it takes the sharks no time at all to build new high quality relationships. In fact, in their case, they've become so efficient that the hardest part about building business relationships for them isn't finding people, it's finding the people who are the most qualified. Needless to say, this is the apex. This is what everyone should be shooting for. Setting up scenarios that make people want to build a relationship with you. What else is a great example? It's a Twitter account, or really any social media account, a newsletter, a blog post, an article. Building a high quality, let's take Twitter for example. Building a high quality Twitter account is one of the easiest things you can do to make your life better. I'm saying easy, but not simple. This takes a lot of work every single day to just put out great stuff there, but your work is public and can be seen forever by anyone. Your reach is unmatched, can hit millions of people with a single tweet if you're extremely lucky. There are incredible high quality people on the platform. Yes, there are tons of low quality people too, but you don't have to engage with them. Also, once you have a large account, people come to you. People DM you with business opportunities, they give you advice, or that you simply want to be your friends. And most importantly, relationship building gets easier over time. The longer you've been running the account, the bigger the account gets. The bigger your reach, the higher your credibility. Because the more your work is out there, the more people who want to build relationships with you. And I've been lucky because I've had some people reaching out to me who I've never met without having a Twitter account. Like this is period. That's how it is. And here I would give another example what Larry Gagosian has done. He has built the equivalent of a platform by creating repeated touch points where the market paid attention to him. Headline exhibitions, museum quality historical shows, and the publication ecosystem that kept his brand and tastes in, let's call it, in circulation. In Dealflow, the parallel is building consistent signals, public work, repeatable events, and visible wins and lessons so that prospects can evaluate you before they ever speak to you. Think about it. The compounding becomes more and more pronounced the bigger you get. Writing an article or a tweet takes the same amount of effort whether you have 10 followers or 10 million followers, but the impact of the tweet, both in terms of benefit to you and the benefit to others, differs massively. When you write a tweet or an article or a newsletter to 10 people, you may only get one new follower or relationship as a result. when you write a tweet to a million or 10 million people, you may get 1,000 new relationships as a result. So what's happening here? The value of your so-called new time is increasing. You used to send a tweet and it got you one new relationship. Now you send still one tweet and it gets you 10,000 or 100,000 new relationships. The action is the same. The time spent is the same, but the result is way different, way, way better. That's how you know the compounding is working. The value of your time is going up. Again, all this could be an article, could be a blog post, or maybe you simply attending to a podcast, which has thousands of listeners. It's just you putting an hour or 2 hours of sharing your story, your lessons, your experience, and then thousands of people can listen, out of which maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 50 people will reach out to you, and there are your 50 new relationships. It's an extremely smart way to using your time. But the times have changed because with something like Twitter or, again, a blog, a newsletter, the time frame towards creating your yacht is also greatly shortened. You can build a Twitter account, tweet good content, and have a decent sized following, or let's call it a yacht, within a year or within 2 years. Meanwhile, it took Aristotle Onassis, the Greek entrepreneur, his whole life and millions of dollars to create his yacht. Twitter account, newsletter, blog post, these are free. Writing is free. Writing an article is free. And that's the power of internet. Zero reason not to be building a following on social media or writing consistent blog posts or articles. Really, zero reason not to do it. Now let's continue with reverse engineering and the basics of creating a yacht. Now that we've seen a few examples of yachts, we can start to break out the common elements of a good yacht so that we can use these elements to create yachts in our own life, in our own business. The way I see it, there are 5 core questions you need to answer to determine if a venue or situation qualifies as a good yacht or not. Number 1, does it allow potential new relationships to know who you are before officially meeting? Number 2, have you established credibility before meeting? Number 3, how many people can you reach at once? Number 4, are the people you're meeting quality individuals? And number 5, is relationship building getting easier over time? This is likely the most important criteria. In my mind, again, the 5th is the most important. This relates to what we've talked about here before. You're either a relationship compounder or a relationship flatliner. And if the relationship building isn't getting easier over time, I mean, the value of your new time building relationships isn't increasing over time, you're a relationship flatliner, which means you're going nowhere. Which, with these 5 questions in mind, let's walk through a good yacht to really drive the point home. Again, what is the good yacht? Is running a yearly trip or a conference. I really mean it. I mean, a great example of this is hosting your own annual gathering where you control the room. A small conference, a small roundtable, a retreat, or an operator investor summit. Why? Because potential new relationships, knowing who you are. Yes, attendees know who you are before meeting you because you are the host and curator. Established credibility. Yes. Hosting and curating creates authority. You choose the guests, set the agenda, and define the standard. Number of people you meet at once, very high. You can meet many people in a compressed window in contexts that encourage follow-on introductions. Quality of people you can meet, very high, because you can filter who attends. Relationship building gets easier over time. Big yes. The event becomes more valuable through word of mouth, repeat attendance, and a growing alumni network, while the effort is to run it stays roughly the same. This is exactly the same thing what Larry Gagosian and his events did. They weren't networking. They were curated ecosystems with repeat attendance, tight guest list control, and a clear status ladder. Over time, that ecosystem became a Dealflow engine. Introductions, collaborations, and transactions happened naturally because the right people kept showing up in the same room on his term, which for Larry Gagosian one goal in mind was to simply sell more art. And as you can see, hosting a conference is a perfect example of a yacht. It hits every single qualifying category and heuristic, just perfect positioning and a great way to foster relationships. And most importantly, it allows you to become a relationship compounder, as your ability to generate high quality relationships improves over time while spending the same exact amount of time and effort on it. Not to forget the power of other people meeting each other. There is so much value there where even if you don't become so close with those attendees, maybe one attendee meets the other one and they do a business together. You think they will come back next year or the next event 100% because they got so much value out of it. So the power of hosting a conference or a small event is real. So all this, what I covered here, should have convinced you that you're not spending your time correctly. The majority of your relationship building time should not be spent going out and attempting to forge new relationships. Instead, your time should be spent working on yourself, creating a body of work and creating situations that allow your relationships to compound and for people to come to you. The central question you should be asking yourself is the venue of my new time spent on relationships going up? If the answer is no, meaning that it still takes you the same amount of time and energy to create a new high quality relationship as when you got started performing that action, it's time to reassess. Either the action itself is low ROI or you're not approaching the action from the proper angle. Your positioning is wrong. This means that you should revisit the 5 central questions, figure out which question isn't being satisfied, and reverse engineer a new situation where it is being satisfied. So, does this mean you shouldn't go to the new bar, a restaurant, or a golf club where you don't have an established presence? Absolutely not. They're a great time and you can make great connections doing that. It's just probably not the most effective use of your time. The most effective use of your time is in relationship building sphere is to manufacture situations that lead to adventurous relationships. No doubt, it takes a lot of time upfront to figure these scenarios out, and like anything else, that's worth it. The returns aren't guaranteed, but once you do it, you can reap the benefits of easy compounding for the rest of your life. Lastly, there is no reason why you can't have more than one yacht in your life. Again, your Twitter account, your newsletter, your blog posts could be your yacht. Your beach house could be a yacht. The massive party you hold each year can be a yacht. The possibilities are endless, and the idea should be to create as many yachts as possible to make the value of your time as high as possible and the time spent creating quality new relationships as low as possible. To sum it all up, create your own yacht and let people come to you. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Buyers and Builders. Please remember to subscribe wherever you're listening and leave a review. It really helps the show reach more buyers and operators. And if you already haven't, go back and listen to some of the other episodes of Buyers and Builders. This podcast is built for people who buy, build, and hold great businesses long term. Every guest you hear on this show has real, hard-won experience acquiring and operating companies, and the goal is, again, very simple: to give you ideas you can actually use in your own journey.